The CW Twin Cities presents See What's Now, brought to you by the X Games.
All right, I think we could probably get started. First of all, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. X Games Minneapolis 2018 is just, it's here. It's here, right, Jack?
We made it.
Yeah,
we have arrived.
Here. So we changed the format a little bit this year. It's going to be more of a driven panel discussion by the very talented Jack Matrani, former professional snowboarder. He's a musician, he's a comedian, and he is our television host. So thank you, Jack. Without further ado, I guess I'll just kick it to the professional.
Hey, thank you so much, Danny. And thank you, guys. Huge round of applause for the media outlets that help bring our stories to the public. Thank you guys for being here. Very excited to be back. Year 2, Minneapolis. Figured out the kinks from last year, and it looks great out there. And without further ado, let's kick this thing off.
Jack, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt one?
Please. I feel like we should tag team this.
So it is a panel discussion, but at any point, please feel free. If you have a question, you want to jump in here, just raise your hand and we'll get your microphone, okay? Thanks.
Thank you for clearing that up. Can we also get a round of applause for all of the athletes and Tim Reed for taking the time out of their busy schedules? I'd like to start off by introducing each one of these athletes, followed by a question. So first up, on my left right here, Elliott Sloan, who will be competing in skateboard, big air, and vert. He's a 9-time X Games medalist, 3 of which are gold. No big deal. Outside of that, he's actually opening up for Zed on Sunday with a DJ set. So a man of many talents. That's going to be really fun. I hope you guys are there, front row, cheering him on. My first question for you, after so many years competing, what did it mean to finally win a big air gold last year?
I don't know, it feels awesome.
What about that interview where Bob Burnquist just jumped right in and passed over the torch, announced his retirement of X Games, and passed over the torch to you? What was that like? Were you kind of like, dude, get out of my interview, or were you excited?
I mean, I was excited. I didn't really realize what was happening until after, and I watched it, and I was just like, wait a minute. But no, I'm stoked for him, and I was stoked to be a part of that moment, so it was cool.
Well, we're stoked to see what you bring this year, year 2 here at Mini. On Elliott's left, Jackson Strong, Moto X Best Trick and Freestyle, 5-time X Games medalist, 3 of which are gold. Competed last year with a broken wrist, no big deal. He's got a pet kangaroo named Skippy, which I can't wait to ask you more about. The question here, you've had a history of firsts at X Games with several Best Trick wins. Are you doing anything different to prepare for this year's X Games, and what do you think it will take to get the gold in freestyle?
Well, it's Minneapolis, so we're all ready to throw down and give you guys another good show, and thanks again for having us for another year. But this year, the gold in freestyle, I think Jack, that's going to be a really tricky one. The level of riding this year in freestyle is going to be a head and shoulders above what it has been the last couple of years. So looking forward to participating, and hopefully I can do Skip proud.
Can we hear a little bit more about your pet kangaroo, Skip, please? How did that come about? Let's start there.
So I live in a pretty remote part of Australia. I guess it's like, they're not saying Minneapolis is remote here, but I don't live near the coast. I live pretty inland, so it's kind of culturally a good feeling for me to come here. Feels similar to home. And we have lots of kangaroos out there. And unfortunately, I was driving home from town one day, and a truck hit the Skip's mum. That's pretty common out there. And Skip was sitting next to her mum like sitting next to a pouch. So I swooped in, picked her up, got some kangaroo milk. You don't want to know how I got the kangaroo milk. And then took her home and bottle fed her for about 4 or 5 months. And now she's a year old. And yeah, she's a happy, healthy little kangaroo. She's my best friend.
That's an amazing story. Will you keep Skip forever, or do you have to let her go back into the wild?
I plan on keeping her. I'd be pretty upset if she took off, I think. I'd start talking to myself again.
She gonna be watching on in Australia?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Moving down the line, Nicole Hause, the local. You've been on fire this year, won the Dew Tour. My question for you here is, you've been on quite a roll this year. What would winning X Games in Minneapolis mean to you compared to the other competitions that you've won this year?
I mean, just because I'm at home, it would be amazing just to be in front of my family and and friends and pull something like that off. So in Minnesota, like, you couldn't ask for much more. So.
Do you feel more pressure at home versus on the road?
Maybe a little bit, but I don't know. It's such a cool experience, and I'm so lucky to have this opportunity. So I have like 150 family and friends coming. So it's
That's
like,
insane.
it's crazy. And if I
Local
could pull a
support.
gold in front of all of them, I would be super stoked.
That's awesome. How's the park out there? You been practicing?
Yeah, the park is super fun.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Well, best of luck to you, Nicole. We got Jagger Eaton on Nicole's left, who is competing in street. Is that all?
Park.
Park.
Yeah.
Street and park.
Yes.
Wild card
Yes,
into the
both.
park.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Quick glad you got the facts down.
Yep. You know what it is? Whoever printed this out, just, could you keep it on the same page? No, I'm just kidding. You won Skateboard Street silver at X Games Norway, which was your first X Games medal in the pro finals. You began the year off with a massive win at Tampa Pro. You won gold in skateboard park and street amateur events last year in Minneapolis, and you were the youngest X Games competitor ever, making your X Games debut in Big Air at just 11 years old. That's crazy. 11 years old competing at X Games. My question, you've been competing here since you were 11 years old on Big Air. Now you're back to your true love of park and competing in street. How do you feel your skating's evolved, and how has competing at X Games changed for you now that you're becoming an OG, an old man?
An OG. Well, I'm glad you think I'm an OG. Yeah, no, I mean, I've competed in this event so much. You know, I remember just, you know, looking at Mega Ramp, and when I was 11, you know, competing with Elliot out in Mega, and then, you know, now I'm skating park, so I skate with her a lot in practice, and, you know, it's cool. I'm glad, you know, I'm able to skate, you know, park and street, you know, now. You know, Mega was very stressful for me and my father, most definitely. But now, you know, I'm really stoked. I'm glad, you know, to be able to be here every year, and I feel like every time I come here, it's just I'm seeing family I get to see every year. You know, it's just like a holiday for all of us, and I'm just stoked to be here.
How's the course treating you so far?
The course is fun. Yeah, I fell really hard in park today on a 5. I like had no idea where I was, and I just hit my head. But I'm all right. You know, I'm all right. It happens. You know,
happens.
it's good. It's good to break. It's good to break the park in with a fall on both. You know, you kind of, you know, the park kind of kicks you in the butt a little bit, and then you start adapting to the park. And you know, now after practice today, they both feel good. I'm excited.
That's what I like to hear. And what music are you going to be listening to? Like, one of my favorite parts about you is just kind of watching you when you're not riding, and you're like up on the side, you got your dance moves going. What are you listening to?
I mean, I don't know. I got to suggest 2 songs. So I'm pretty sure I picked "Pick It Up" by Famous Dex, and I picked something by Playboi Carti. I think I put "Woke Up Like This," but yeah, y'all will see.
Raise your hand if you know who Dex is out there.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out Dex after this. You're going to love him. On Jagger's left, we got Michael Laren from Wisconsin. We'll consider that local-ish.
Yeah.
Local-ish.
Yeah.
Won the Road to X Games Boise qualifier not too long ago in June. Won Big Air bronze in his first Big Air competition. I got a question for you here. You didn't grow up in Minnesota, but you are from Wisconsin. Can you tell us about what it's like to compete back here in a region you're familiar with when you're also doing some of your best competition riding?
Yeah, no, I think that there is a familiarity, you know, being in the Midwest, and Minnesota's not too different than Wisconsin, and I think that having, you know, family out, same as Nicole, it's just nice having that support here. And, you know, where I grew up, it was a very eclectic group, you know, of people and stuff, and so having that support across the page for me has always been super important. And I know that when we're riding, it's kind of like just you and your bike are bored, right? And so when you can look over and see, you know, one of your buddies that you grew up with at the skate park when it was nothing, like, you know, me growing up before X Games even existed, to see those same people here now on this platform is a huge privilege and honor, you know. So so I'm pumped to be out here and excited to see what this week offers, man.
Excited to have you out here. And how do you maintain such a healthy diet being from Wisconsin? When I went and visited there, it's like on the table instead of bread, it's just like cheese curd platters.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just give it up. How important is it to have a healthy diet in the position you're in?
It's huge. I mean, that's like if we're vehicles, if our bodies are vehicles, you got to put premium gas in if you want it to operate efficiently, right? And so, you know, maybe in the off season, you know, get down on some burgers every once in a while. But
it's all about balance.
Yeah, it does change. You know, I did the vegetarian thing for like 8 months just to see, like just on a whim to see how it worked out, and it was great. And so, so I think, you know, in between, you know, doing events and all that stuff, just try to, you know, keep up on it. But yeah, it's fun.
What about you, Tim? How was the Italian restaurant last night?
I'm thinking of the low-grade oil that goes into my body all the time.
Can we get a round of applause to the man who makes it all happen, Tim Reed, down there on the end. I'm just going to read some of these professional bullet points here. He's the VP of X Games. He oversees creative development and day-to-day operation of X Games franchise. No big deal. Led development and integration of youth lifestyle elements and music. Little known fact, but in addition to being an avid snowboarder, Tim played football and basketball at Yale. You wouldn't have known. Truly an X Games lifer, Tim started as an intern sweeping ramps in the early days of X Games. Give it up one more time for Tim.
Yeah.
Truly the reason that we're here. With media consumption habits changing so rapidly, how important is digital and social content to the action sports industry, and how has X Games evolved to meet that demand?
Well, first off, thanks everyone who's up on this wonderful panel for coming out to X Games again. There's a whole crew of people work day in and day out to get this all set up, and we hope you guys are stoked, and we're really thankful to have you guys back. So, thanks. Just in terms of the media landscape, clearly over the last, bunch of years, the shift from primarily what was a TV show that we would produce obviously has, changed quite a bit to where social and digital have become even bigger, parts of what we do day in and day out. And it's not just what we do, but obviously everyone up here, you guys are all active on social and, Instagram, Facebook, all those things. And so it's just become that much bigger. But I still think one of the coolest things is that there's just still not that many events out there that, we're going to be on for 28 and a half hours of television, 19 of which are on ESPN and ABC. So again, I think as big as social and digital still plays to, making this thing a big deal, you still can't, take away the fact that it's on TV for a ton of hours, tons of distribution, 500 million people around the world. So we love building this platform for you guys and showcasing it to the world.
You guys do a great job of it. Can we actually piggyback off of what you just said and open it up to you guys? How important is social media in your guys' careers? Jagger?
Yeah, I can help out with this one. I think that social media is a huge outlet for us. I travel all over the world this year. X Games Oslo, went straight from there to Venice, Italy for the week with my family, then went to London, and it was cool. And I feel like social media can really help you, really help show your journey. And show a part of you that you can't really show just on TV while you skate. It can show your personality and what you are besides, you're competitive, obviously, but you can show that, like I dance and stuff, so I post a video of me dancing in Italy, and I just embarrassed myself. My dad could Gollum in the middle of Italy. It's just certain stuff that you can post on Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff that can show your personality, and I feel like that's the biggest part about social media.
Great answer.
And I also feel like, it's come a long way, because I remember when the internet came out.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's right.
I'm with you. Yeah. So it's one of those. It's one of those things that you really, you see this platform and it gives relatability to the person that's on the couch at home. It's almost like you're driving the car and they're in the passenger seat with you, right? And they're along for that ride. So it's really cool. And it's like, he kills it on social media. And to give that, that opportunity for somebody that may never meet you, it's like they're here at X Games with you, and they're on the top of the deck. Like the one post Elliot made yesterday just on the rolling. People are losing it. Like, man, that looks crazy. So it's those opportunities that are pretty neat,
Absolutely. Any other comments on social media? Maybe is social media turning into too much work? Is it like you're trying to focus on launching the big air ramp and then you're like, man, I got to post this. I got to make sure the hashtags are right. I got to make my partners happy. I got to do it in the air this time.
If no one's gonna say it, it is. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely struggle with that. During contests, I never post, but then I'm like, shoot, I gotta post. I gotta do this other job because it is something that you have to do to kind of be relevant in this time.
Couldn't agree more.
You got to put one of those 150 people to work.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to make a post about, hey, I need an intern. Comment below. We'll bring him into the press room. We'll do an interview with everyone sitting around. It'll be great. Let's move on to Minneapolis. How did X Games moving the event to the city of Minneapolis and US Bank Stadium enhance the athlete and fan experience last year?
I think I've got this one on the athlete experience, guys. I spent quite a bit of time back here in 2013 practicing for Winter X Games on a snowmobile, and this place is very different in the winter. Very, very cold. But love it here. I think culturally, Minnesota accepts X Games really well, and I think that that's pretty important for us if we're here trying to compete and put our lives on the line for a good show and a great event. It makes it all worthwhile if the city's into it also. And then secondly, we've battled, action sports constantly battles with the elements. So to have the US Bank Stadium here with a roof over our heads that you don't even know there's a roof there, it's all glass. This is without a doubt the most insane stadium I've ever been to. So I think that it's definitely a massive weight off my shoulders as an athlete coming here knowing I'm not going to have to battle the elements, and it is going to be what it's going to be. So there's definitely not as much stress leading in.
What about the energy in US Bank Stadium with like all the people in the stands cheering? How much does that do to enhance your trickery?
We're going to lift the roof off this place on Friday and Saturday night.
That's what I'm talking about. I also want to be conscious if any of you guys have any questions at all means, we're here for you. So moving on. The Olympics, Tokyo 2020. You guys have been competing at X Games for years. What do you think about the Olympics picking up Park and Street 20 years after the Winter Olympics started adding snowboard events? We'll get back to you on that, Jacko.
I mean, it's a huge opportunity, right? And regardless of the platform, all of us do this day in and day out. So to have another opportunity to kind of do our thing and have that platform, it gives more exposure to what we're doing, which is cool. And you always hear kind of like an influx of, opinions on it. And I think that there are, this is why we do what we do, because we love it, because it's our passion, because it's like that day in and day out. You can't stop thinking about it, right? And to have that kind of blend with the Olympics, I think is kind of neat, to be honest. And at the end of the day, people worry about taking the the trueness or that magic thing away from freestyle. It's like, is it going to remain that? Is it going to change? Like, what about the rules? All that different stuff. And I think those details are too far in the future to kind of like get rigid with it. But I think it's a cool opportunity, and it'll be fun to see how that kind of unfolds.
Do you see the level of progression going any faster since the Olympics are coming up in 2 years, or does it still seem same as always?
I feel like it's been a pretty steady progression regardless.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing too, right? Because it's like those guys would be doing that at home anyway, right? Just because we love what we do so much. And so it's like, to see that, I don't think there'd be a catalyst like, oh, it's Olympics and we got to go crazy now. This is already our platform. We're already excited to be here. So to work in the off season to get to this point, it's amazing. And I don't think that, just because there'd be another label on it would change the work ethic.
Very true. Jacko, do you think motorsports will ever see the day when it makes the Olympics?
No, I hope not. I'm pretty comfy here.
Why is that?
This is it. This is family. This is like what it is to me. I wouldn't want. I don't think I'd really want freestyle as a sport to move in that direction. I think that it fits. It's right at home here, and this is where it's going to stay.
Amen to that. Going back into more progression and training, this is for anybody, what is your mentality and training approach before an X Games event? Who are you most worried about, or who is your biggest competition? Tim? Is it Twitter? Is it?
My wife. My kids.
Yeah, I feel like I compete so much with everybody in all these events. I definitely see the progression in every single event. Wherever we're at. Within a month, you'll have people showing up with new tricks and everything. But I feel like overall, we're all competing and having fun. So I feel like the only person that we can really go against ourselves. When we're mentally, it can get to a point where you get so stressed out or you don't feel like a trick's right. As long as you play a strategy and you just know where you're going with where your head's at and where your tricks are at and how your body's feeling, you should just be competing against yourself.
Has that mentality changed since you were 11?
No, it hasn't. I'm a wreck, so but definitely myself.
Anybody else?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say I compete against anybody or I'm scared to compete against anyone, because it is about you and what you're doing and kind of what you want to do with your run. It's about if you land a run, it's like what you're doing on your board, and it doesn't really apply to what anyone else is doing. So you just got to have fun and skate with your friends and get ready for whatever's next.
Sounds easy.
Sounds
give that a
easy
shot.
Enough.
Elliot, are you more nervous to DJ on Sunday or to compete in Vert and Big Air?
No, that's going to be the fun part once everything's over. So definitely looking forward to Saturday night and getting that over with, because definitely get anxious, a month out from this event. And just because I know that big jump is coming. We skate the smaller one all year, and then when we get here, we skate that bigger one. It never gets any less scary or any less fast, especially when it's indoors and there's no wind to like slow you down or anything. So no, Sunday will be very fun.
Have you played live before, let alone open for Zed?
Yeah, I have a few times. I actually opened for Marshmallow at Winter X. That was super
nice.
Fun. Yeah.
Okay. That's another big one.
Yeah, it throws down.
Good for the resume.
Yeah, it's crazy. On New Year's, I was with Elliot, and he played. We were in San Diego, and it was insane.
Nice.
So that'll be fun.
Raise your hand if you're going to make it Sunday. Yes. That's all I had for questions. Do you have any final remarks or any questions at all? Oh, we got a question in the back here.
Hi, Tim. Jeff Briaschi with KSTP TV in Minneapolis here. What was, I'll say, what happened as far as repeating coming here to Minneapolis? I mean, did you talk to the athletes? Did you have more of a response to the fans? What was it that made Minneapolis so appealing to come here a second time?
Well, I think you mean the second of the 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yes.
we obviously after last year, and I think the success of the event and the reaction we got from the local community, but also I think the facility played a big part in that. And I didn't speak individually to these guys about it, but just the general feedback we got was clearly being inside this building, the amenities that were available, not only to them, but to getting the job done, doing the production. They're all first class, so that was a big part of obviously extending for 2 more years. And I think too, the other thing goes with like the city of Minneapolis. I think a lot of us, me included, hadn't spent a lot of time here before that, but to have the services and the hotels and everything super convenient, and coming here in the summertime is pretty nice. So I think all those factors played into making what really was an easy decision to extend for a couple more years. So we're definitely thrilled. We know we got to probably shake some things up, do some different things moving forward, but that's what we do, and we'll work with all the athletes on that stuff.
Great question. Anybody else have a question? Right here in the front.
Hey, Travis with East Valley Trib out of Mesa. Unrelated to everything but Jackson, why did you choose the name Skip? Why didn't you choose hip or hop or hippie hop?
I don't know. I don't know how that name came about. Can anyone else think of anything? I don't know. Just the first thing. Kangaroo, skip. That hand in hand, isn't it?
Totally.
I'd like to keep it simple.
And then this is for Jagger Eaton. How did you prep for X Games when you were back in Mesa? Did you go to a particular park that you like skating at, or do you have your own personal one?
Yeah, I was very fortunate enough to, my dad owns a facility, skate facilities all over Arizona called KTRs, and they're indoor and they're air conditioned, and I was fortunate to be able to, grow up at a park like that, and I just woke up Christmas morning, got a skateboard, and then right after that, my dad just saw I fell in love with it and just built a skate park, and it's air conditioning, it's got everything I need, and I'm just very fortunate to have that.
Anybody else?
It's too hot there, and I don't want to fly back.
AC.
Hey, Andrew Kramer here from the Star Tribune. I just wanted to thank all you guys for taking the time to do this. Nicole, with doing the Grand Marshal with the parade, 150 people coming out, what's it feel like to kind of sink into this local celebrity that you got going on?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, my grandma's always calling me, like, you were in the newspaper. And I'm like, it's crazy, but, like, it's really cool that I get to do this and kind of show people what skateboarding is, because I feel like Minnesota never, or at least where I'm from in Stillwater, never really fully understand what it is. So now I think people are starting to see what I've done, and it's kind of helping people or kids, you know, realize that they can kind of take it anywhere, and it's cool that I get to kind of showcase it.
Any other questions? Right here.
For Elliot and Michael, the first time you go down a big air ramp, what's that like, and how do you get the guts to do that?
Like the very first time?
Yeah.
Elliot, what was yours like?
It took me a while, man. It like probably, I don't know, a few months of just getting up there and looking at it and be like, not today. But I think it kind of starts with skating vert and having that experience, because I don't know if you'd be able to hit the quarter pipe if you didn't know how to skate like big transitions. So definitely starting with skating vert, and then I don't know, just watching guys like Bob do it, and then be like, all right, this dude can do it, I can do it.
Like it's possible, right?
It's possible.
And that's the biggest thing, because my first experience with it was watching it on TV. You know, I was at home, and I was like, oh man, that's crazy, dude, look at that ramp, you know? And in my head, I mean, it's progressional, right? So you go from jumping off a curb with training wheels, all the different stuff, and then you're jumping a box jump and so forth, and it builds up to that. But there's never been anything since Matt Hoffman did that back in the day. And he was just doing that because he like just loved it so much, you know? And so to be in the middle of a field in Oklahoma, riding a 27-foot quarter pipe, being told him about a dirt bike is wild. So I think that there's these catalysts that kind of say, hey, it's possible. Same with Bob. And so Elliot and I get the privilege to go to Bob's, you know, and skate together and ride together. So it's one of those things like, all right, man, we're going to do it today. Like, all right, sick. And you just kind of build up that courage for it, you know? But that's why it's so kind of surreal now to be here after watching it on TV at home. It's like now we're competing in it. And so, I mean, this is home. You know what I'm saying? This is like such an ironic kind of, you know, magical thing. And even today and yesterday when Elliot and I were riding, it's like, it's a trip, you know? You see the ramp, and it's built perfect, to be honest. I mean, it's super fast. It feels good. So to go from that first experience, jumping it, to, you know, feeling comfortable now is it's a privilege, you know? So that's a process, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I used to skate Mega, but on a separate point, when I started skating it, I was at Woodward, where it was like the big roller, and I think the gnarliest, probably like, if like now I would never do it ever, but the fact that like I was skating Woodward and I was skating Bob's, and then I like at 11 when I looked up and there was this 110-foot roll and that was so steep, and I like look up and I'm like, I look at everybody else and I'm like, why are you padding up? Like, are we doing this? Like, is this what we're doing right now? Like, does it fall flat so we can like actually hit it? And they're like, no, like that's what you're doing. Like, and I mean, I feel like to me that was like the hardest thing to get over, was like feeling like you were on your board to floating. I feel like that was like the hardest thing, most definitely.
Yeah, I just have to say, like, okay, the mega ramp at X Games is way crazier than like Bob's and Woodward, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know, Bob's and Woodward is like gradual. So I don't know, it has to be scary to come from that to this. And you guys are amazing, because I think about it and I'm like, nah, probably not. Probably not even one day. I don't know.
The rolling out at Bob's is like probably like that, and then the one here is like that.
Yeah.
Pitch. Yeah, it's crazy.
And yeah, like I was saying, we all skate like the smaller jump, and then when we get here, the contest is really on the bigger side, and yeah, that never gets any better. I mean, it's super fun, but it's just like, it's hectic.
Yeah, it keeps you honest.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, you know, because when it goes wrong, it goes wrong.
It goes pretty wrong.
Yeah. So, and it's all perspective, right? Because it doesn't feel like the proportions and the speed. It feels normal-ish, like when you're riding, until you put a foot down or bail, and then everything speeds up so fast. You're like, oh, I'm cruising. This is crazy, you know. So, so when it goes right, that's like that freeing feeling. That's why, like, you know, jump off a curb. It's the same feeling, just bigger scale.
How important is it to master falling compared to mastering landing? Like, we just watched Ryan Williams take a slam, and you're like, Kevin Robinson was telling you that you really need to know exactly when to throw your bike.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. If you can figure that out, everything else is kind of easy after that. You can try stuff and bail. But, and it depends, because, like, I mean, like when you ride motocross, like, you can't, there's no
Just tuck and roll.
Yeah. Stop, drop, and roll.
So there's different platforms of it, I guess.
Is that the same in skating too? Just kick the board out and.
Kinda, yeah.
Are you ever thinking it's gonna like come down and hit you in the head?
It's way easier than dealing with a bike or something. You can slide out a lot easier, but no, Ryan actually got out of that really good. He kind of like slid, and he was super far out. But when you're like that far out on the quarter, there's not really much you can do. I mean, we've all seen Jake, and when you're up that high and out that far, it's just
hard to tell if you're gonna make it or not.
Yeah,
it's just a level of commitment.
Pretty much.
One of my personal pet hates is when you're like rolling down a landing or something without your bike, and then you see it conk, 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 and it gets louder and louder and closer and closer.
Chasing you down.
And then you look around and it goes, whack! But yeah, apart from that, it's all right.
Well, then my final question is, after you get whacked in the back of the head with a motorcycle, what keeps you coming back?
I don't think I know anything else. I think it's like you pretty much dedicate your life to something, and if I tried to stop, I couldn't. Like every day I wake up, this is what I think about doing. I think about doing new tricks and doing new things. It's what I do. It's all I do, and it's all I've got a passion for, really. If I stopped doing it, I wouldn't really be alive. So here we are. I'm sure you guys are pretty similar.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like that adversity is grit to get back, and when you're injured, that's all the things that you think about is riding. You know what I mean? And it becomes like infectious, and the normal things that people see like an underpass, and we're like, oh man, you could ride that to a wall ride. So your lens on the world is totally different, and that's what makes X Games so unique, is because there's different perspectives for each one of us in the disciplines that we do. And that's just something that I think is super important, and to stay in tune with that. Because it's like you don't stop riding because you get old. You got old because you stop riding, kind of thing.
The respect level is maxed out. So much respect. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, give it up for the athletes here. Give it up for yourselves as well. Thank you guys so much for every tweet, mention, photo, every single thing that you guys do to help tell these stories. It's amazing, and we really appreciate it.